I shipped all my camera gear down to Jefferson, so I'm doing a lot more of this webcam stuff. I don't have a lot to say today. I know I say that sometimes and then end up talking a lot, but I'm actually working on my Storybones project right now. That's inspired by me working on touch. I was working on breaking down the seasons a bit just to get an idea. And one thing that I guess has popped into my mind as I've worked through that is kind of, I guess, wondering like how far in advance do um, show writers plan ahead? Like, was there a typical what it looks like, or do they plan out some piece of the story and then the rest of it gets fleshed in around it as they go? Because what's been interesting to me is pushing ahead in the story um, raises a lot of questions that I think, when answered, will actually influence even just the very beginning of the show. And that's fascinating. I um, yeah, I think I always kind of imagined that you kind of got it started, and then maybe there's some possibilities of what can come next, and you're kind of just building it as you go. And I don't know, the old traditional TV show where it comes out every couple weeks, every week. I don't remember. I wasn't there watching TV. I was off in the jungle. But you're kind of got this constant churn of writing and shooting and post production and then airing and hmm. But if that's how it's done, it begs the question: how many shows get like thoroughly planned out ahead of time? How many shows get completely written ahead of time, and maybe there's tweaks as they go, but they actually write the whole thing? I don't know. The more I work on touch, and the more I get into asking big picture questions, the more I think that it would be good to do the whole thing, right? Or at least to some level. But that's a lot of work. Um, I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is that as I think about where my story is at for the episode I'm working on, then I'm like, okay, let's imagine what happens next. I kind of revert to this sort of wishful thinking mode where I think of things that I think, ooh, that sounds really cool, and I'll write out a quick description of that, and I'll be like, dang, I think that's a whole season. All right, well, what could happen next? Like, okay, this happens, and there's a whole nother season. Now I've got 4 seasons all figured out, right? But when I force myself to think about the um, beat structure of an actual season, like what's the beat for the season? And what I've been doing is, like my first season, I think there might be 7 episodes there. I'm like, all right, maybe there needs to be 7 uh, progressive complications that I identify, because each episode needs to have some challenge, something to overcome from the perspective of the bigger story, right? So I try to figure those out. And so as I'm taking that initial, like, ooh, here's a really cool idea, and I'm going, all right, and what's the actual conflict, and what are the challenges that are faced, and what I'm realizing, oh my goodness, like there's not as much meat there as I thought. And that's not the end of the world. It's just room for creativity to kick in. So I spent some time working on that today, and kind of got through season 2. I don't know if I'll like it, but got some ideas in place for how it could play out. Started thinking about episode or season 3, and kind of got some of the progressive complications figured out, like maybe what some of the first ones were, what some of the last ones were, what the big crisis question was. But there's a couple holes in there I didn't know quite how to figure it out, and it leaves me thinking, maybe there's not a whole season worth of conflict there, but there could be, and I just haven't figured it out yet. Um, but I also, in the process of doing that, it's like forcing me to go a little bit deeper and look at these challenges in storytelling. Like, what's so interesting about this? Well, I need to come up with some interesting things, and the ideas start popping, and it's exciting. And ultimately, that's why this evening I'm jumping back over to doing a little bit of development work on Storybones, because it's it's lacking the features I want to tell the story pieces. Like, I'm really wanting to start being able to tell subplots and maybe track character arcs and things like that a little bit better. And that stuff's just not there right now. I think it would be interesting if I could actually capture pieces of a character or an entity's story that maybe comes before I actually pick up with the actual storytelling that ends up in the show. It's kind of the lore part of it. But I think it'd be fun to be able to capture that, because it may or may not appropriately fit in the episode or in the show as actual content or a flashback of some sort or something. Who knows? But anyway, I guess I feel good that I'm inspired to write enough that I'm inspired to make the tool better. That's fun. We'll see where we get. At some point, I think it'd be really fun to release it to all of my fans on this page. Oh wait, Jefferson already has access. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in to Bootstrap Cinema, where, truth be told, it's only me that doesn't know what he's doing, and I'm doing it anyway. Having a pretty decently good time about it. Later.